G'day guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to episode 7 of our shipbuilding series. So I think today will be the last episode that we have building this ship because to be honest with you at this point the only thing that we're doing is we're going to pretty much dot some I's and cross off some T's and that's about it really. So there are several things that I want to finish off on this ship. So the first one being is obviously I want to add some connectors up the top here for you know, basically mining ships and that sort of stuff, because I guess it's not really that good having a ship like this and it not being able to carry anything, or it can carry a lot of cargo but it can't really carry any other ships. The second thing I wanted to do is I wanted to add some more thrusters on the bottom like I mentioned in the previous episode, but I think the only way we're going to be able to do that is by adding another 2 thrusters here at the front. I've gone over the ship quite a bit with the spectator camera and there's not really many places where I can fit any extra thrusters, so I guess that's probably going to be the only place we're going to be able to fit some more. So if I can manage to fit in another 2 on either side, that should give us another 4.4 meganewtons worth of thrust, which should mean that we can lift roughly about 440,000 kilos extra. So, I mean, that's definitely going to be helpful. I would like it to lift a bit more, but I think it's still going to be quite a capable ship. And it's definitely going to be suitable for survival. So once we finish this series, then I'm going to release the blueprint, and yeah. And finally, the last thing that I want to do is I just want to kind of set up the hotbar in the cockpit, and yeah, so I'm going to show you guys roughly how to do that. And yeah, so let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so I guess the first area that we're going to go start with is I'm going to start with the thrusters on the bottom. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to delete all these blocks here, delete another block there, I'm going to delete that plate, and then you can see roughly where we are in the ship is we're here. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to add in another 2 conveyors. So let's make them the same orientation as that. For some reason I must have put these sideways or something like that, but I guess it doesn't really matter too much. Let's go in here and get these conveyors the right way around. Just place them in like that because my OCD is just awesome. Okay, let's head back down to the bottom of the ship. Let's grab our thrusters. Let's make them the same color as all the rest of them. And let's put our thrusters like that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put another couple of blocks like what we have on this side, and I'm going to extend this nose piece further forward just a little bit. So I'm going to have to delete all of these blocks here, including these ones. Then we're going to put in our 2x1 slopes. Where are we? Like that. Put another one there like that. And then we're just going to put in our light armor blocks. Okay, so then we'll get our other slopes. And we'll just fill this area out. So I might just cut the video until I've filled this area out, because this part is pretty self-explanatory. Alright, so I've gone ahead and I've added those blocks in. So now we have an extra 4.4 meganewtons worth of thrust. And as I said before, that should be good for about another 440,000 kilos roughly in Earth gravity, maybe slightly more. So I think as it stands we should have about, let me just check, 74 meganewtons worth of thrust. So it's very similar to what I had with the Atlas. Okay, so one of the other things I said I wanted to do is I wanted to add some connectors up the top here for other ships. And in fact, there are several connectors that I want to add on the rest of this ship, so we'll go ahead and we'll do that as well. But unfortunately, in order to add some connectors up here, what I'm going to be forced to do is probably delete one of these thrusters here. So yeah, we're going to have to do that. I guess I might be able to add another thruster here to compensate. So I might just go ahead and do that. So we remove a thruster and then we add another thruster, so that shouldn't be too bad. I think that's a pretty good compromise. So let's make this that color. Let's put our thruster in. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grind this out. Because if I go and delete it, then I'm going to delete this catwalk here, and it's going to cause me a few little issues. So let's go ahead and put a plate in place of that thruster to hide that conveyor. I've just noticed these are actually different colors. So maybe I'll go ahead and fix that up now. So let's, well, I deleted the thruster that I just added. That is pretty funny, but what do you do? Alright, let's put our catwalk back. Awesome. Alright, so that works out pretty good. So then what I'm going to have to do is put a conveyor here. Well, first I'll stand right here and I'll delete a block here. Then we will place our conveyor. And then this area should now become airtight. And you can see down in the bottom there, yep, we have air again. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to go outside and I'm going to place my connectors. So, as you can see, we have two lovely holes in the top of my ship, and I'm just going to go place two connectors right there. So if I just bring in one of my mining ships, let's just see how well this actually does. So I have this mining ship that I built quite a while ago. So let's just see how that fits in with this design. We are a little bit close to that, but I guess we can turn it around and we can put it down like that. And then we can lock that down, turn all of our thrusters off. Yeah. So to be honest, it's not really ideal, but yeah, it's usable. So I'm just going to leave it at that. I never really intended for this ship to be a carrier, so I guess there is that as well. But at least it gives us the option to carry at least something on this ship. So let's go ahead and get rid of this ship. Alright, so now what I need to do is find a place for a connector at the rear and also find a place for a connector on the bottom. So I'm probably going to kind of cut the video here and then go to when I've actually found a connector on the bottom. Alright, well, we're in the spectator camera right now, and I just wanted to show you just underneath the ship. So if we go through the floor here, we can see all the conveyor ports that we have available to us. So there's one here that we could use, and there's one there that we could use, but obviously these aren't like in the center. I would really love for these to be in the center, but I just don't know if that's really going to be possible. One other thing we could do is we could kind of run some conveyors underneath the floor here, and then sort of, yeah, I guess we could do that actually. We're going to require a few conveyors to do it, but I'll just show you what I mean. So I think first of all what I'm going to do is I'm going to run a conveyor from the bottom of this hydrogen engine through the floor here. Then I'm going to make a 90-degree right angle. I'm going to go to about here, and I'm going to go straight down. I'm going to have our connector there. So let's go and make ourselves like a little tunnel. So let's go back into the ship and make sure we are putting the hole in the correct position. Yep, that looks pretty good so far. And let's delete another block there. And as you can see, we're making a little bit of a tunnel here. Let's delete another block there. Yeah, I think we're looking pretty good. The only problem is we're getting pretty close to the edge here. So you can see that that edge there is, yeah, there's no block there. So we just need to keep that in mind. So let's just keep tunneling our way through the ship. And there we have it. Now we have arrived at where we want to put our conveyor port. It's actually a bit of a shame that it ends up right there on that corner. But I don't think there's going to be too much that we can do about that. And I think also what we can do is, off those same ports, we can put another connector at the back. And the reason why I want to put a connector on the bottom in the first place is because, yeah, I just think it is a little bit nicer to have a connector at the back. So I think what I might do, in fact, is get rid of all this stuff. And I might just put in some 2x1s. So let's put in our 2x1s like this. Yep. Let's get rid of that. Cover up that port. And let's see what we can do with this. One of those. One of those. Now I kind of want to make this transition to that. Let's put in another one of these. And then so we could either put something in like that. Like that. Or we could maybe put in something like this. Like that. And I think I'll stick with that. Only problem is it has this rather ugly grey line, but yeah, I don't think there's too much we can do about that. It's not the prettiest design I've ever done, but it is functional, and we are going to protect that conveyor a little bit that we're going to place underneath the floor. Is it like that? No, it's not. Yeah. I think I might just go with that block, because it does look a tiny bit better. Okay, let's go back into our character's view here. Let's turn my lights on. Let's go up through here. Let's start putting in some conveyors. And the beautiful part is about this whole thing is that I'm not actually losing any air out of the ship while I'm doing this, so we actually have quite a bit of room to play with. So let's go and place our conveyors in. And then, finally, we will put in our connector. And voila, we have a connector on the bottom of the ship. We have two connectors on the top, and now what I want to go and do is put one at the back somewhere. So usually on my ships, what I like to do is either place one here or there or somewhere around the back end of the ship somewhere. So let's enter back into the spectator camera. And if I haven't mentioned it already, the way you do that is by pressing F8. And let's just have a look where these conveyors are. Alright, so they're at that level. So what I need to do is, I would need to place a conveyor there. Damn. These are in really bad positions. Really, really bad positions. I suppose I'm going to just have to place the conveyor right there underneath this door. And then I'm probably going to have to use this space here to place the sensor for this door if I want to place one there. So, let's go into the ship. Let's delete this block. And then let's delete some blocks out. So then we have to place some more conveyors down. I'm going to turn mirror mode off for this. And I will place my connector like that. Awesome. So it is buried a little bit within these engine housings, but it will still be functional for what we want to do. Okay, so I think that is it for the connectors. I may put one on the side here. So if we go back into spectator camera, actually before I do that, before I get too excited, let's cover up this ugly conveyor here. And I'm going to make that connector army camouflage black, and I'm going to place a catwalk plate there. So then we can't see that connector, and in fact I might put one there just to make it look a little bit more even. I could always change the color of those to grey, but yeah, we'll just leave that for now. I'm not too concerned about it. Alright, well, let's go into the cockpit of the ship and let's go and set up the hotbar. So, one of the first things I like to do with my ships is I like to set up a group for all the thrusters. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my K menu and I'm going to select my thrusters. So let me just make sure that all of our thrusters are in here. So all of our ion thrusters and all of our hydrogen thrusters. Awesome. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all of these and I'm going to create a group. Now, one thing I never mentioned before was whenever you're designing a ship, it's always good to give your ship a name, because if you have multiple ships with groups of thrusters, then sometimes they can get mixed up with one another, and if the groups are named the same, then when you select the group in one ship, it can affect the other ship if it's attached to your base. So let's say you have two ships that are both attached to a base at one time, right? And you have a group called all thrusters on both of those ships. And before you disconnect those two ships from the base, and you're in ship 1 and you select all thrusters and you turn them off, then the thrusters on ship 2 will also turn off. So I guess I'm not sure what I'm going to name this ship yet, but I think I might just make a split-second decision here, and we're just going to call this thing the Pioneer. So let's select all these thrusters and let's create a group. So Pioneer, all thrusters. And then we'll save that group. Then we'll go into our hotbar, we'll press G to edit our hotbar. And then we're going to go into our groups and we can see all of our thrusters. And we're going to toggle that on and off. Awesome. So now we have a group of thrusters. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and I'm going to create a group for all of the forward facing thrusters. So in order to do that, we can just type in forward. Backwards. We create a group for all of our backwards thrust. I might just change this to back just to make sure that we have selected all of them. And we're going to call this backward thrust. Awesome. Go back into our G menu and then we'll set that to toggle block on and off. Then what we can do is we can select our downwards thrusters. So we go down. Actually, no, sorry. Go into the K menu, type in down, and then that should equal all of our downward thrusters. So you can see I don't really have too many on this ship. Let's call it that, Pioneer. And then we're going to save that. We're going to do the same again. I'm going to toggle that block on and off. And then finally what I'm going to do is I'm going to set a group for all the thrusters on the bottom, because when we're entering into planets, I want to be able to turn all of them off and then basically float down to the planet or sink down to the planet. So let's go ahead and do that. And these will be our upward thrust. And as you can see, we have a lot of thrusters. So let's select all of this, but you can see that it's actually selected all of those things as well. So let's go ahead and make a group. Actually, let's select that and then go like that. Cool. Let's call this Pioneer upward thrust. Save that. Go back into the hotbar, go into our groups, and we're going to toggle that block on and off. And then from here, it's just like a simple matter of adding in things that you want. So, like, I'll just give you kind of an example of what we've actually set up. So, if I press number 2, then you can see all of our thrusters at the front have turned off. Now, this is especially useful for when you're doing things like, let's say you want to, go to this asteroid over here, right? So we'll accelerate the ship up. And the ship is just going to coast to that location. So then what we can do is we can steer the ship to where we want to go, and it's not going to drift. So you can see the ship slows down a little bit as it's redirecting our trajectory towards this other asteroid. Wait for those thrusters to die down. Cool. And now, as you can see, we're moving towards this second asteroid. So I'm going to turn these thrusters back on to slow us down. Those ion thrusters on the front do look rather nice, if I don't say so myself. And then it's just a simple matter of adding multiple different things to your hotbar. So, things that you can do is you can have a look at all your blocks. So we can do things like setting our O2 H2 generators to be on or off. So we go into our K menu, we go to O2, and we can set this to, so O2 H2 gens, save, G, groups, toggle block on and off. And then, yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pause the video here, and then I'll cut to where I've actually set up the hotbar and put all the things that I want to put onto the hotbar. So, as you can see, I have set up my hotbar here. So, obviously in the number 1, 2, 3, 4 positions, they remain the same as what they did before. Now, you can see in the number 5, 6, and 7 positions, I've put my jump drives. So, in the number 5 position, I've put my Pioneer jump drives to decrease distance, and then in the number 6 position I've put the Pioneer jump drives to increase the distance of the jump, and then for the number 7 position I've put the jump command itself. So in order to put the jump command itself, what you need to do is you actually need to select an individual jump drive. So if you right click on the groups for the jump drives, you can see that there is no jump command. But if we have a look here in one of the individual jump drives, you can actually see the jump command there. So I've gone ahead and done that. Also what I've done is I've grouped all the landing gears on the bottom, and I have set them to switch lock. So if we have a look there, we can see that this is set to switch lock. And then what I've done is I've put all my Gatling turrets into a group, and I've set them to on and off. Now, two things I should point out with these two blocks when you're setting them up. First of all, the landing gears when you first build them are always set to auto lock. So basically what that means is that when you try to land on something, the landing gears, as soon as they touch anything like a voxel or another block, they'll immediately lock down on that. Okay, and the other thing to consider is with the turrets. Now, if I just go into the control panel and I have a look at my Gatling turrets, you can see that the aiming radius here is set to 800 meters. Now, by default, for some reason, they are set to 600 meters. So you definitely want to go in here and set these to whatever distance you want. But I would obviously, recommend that you set them to 800 meters. Okay, so let's move on to the second page of the hotbar. So on my second page of the hotbar, I always like to put in my connectors and a couple of other bits and pieces. So here you can see I've got all the connectors throughout the ship in the number 1, 2, 3, and 4 position. And I find that it is very useful to actually name your connectors. So if we have a look here for our connectors, you can see I've named them Pioneer bottom, Pioneer connector top left, Pioneer connector top right, and Pioneer rear connector. Right, so in the number 5 position, I've set my O2H2 generators to on and off. In the number 6 position, I've set my large reactor to on and off. And in the number 7 position, I've set my antenna to on and off. And then finally, on the last page, or on the third page in this case, I've set my assemblers, my refinery, and my ore detector. So, and another thing I should point out is with an ore detector, when you first build them, the range isn't set to its maximum. So what you want to go ahead and do is set that to its maximum range of 150 meters, and then hopefully you can pick up some ores. Alright, so a couple of other things that I've done. I've added these 2 console blocks into the bridge here. I've also changed the pictures of these screens in the bridge, and I've also gone ahead and I've named these. So you can see I've named this Pioneer Bridge Flight Seat Right number 2. So basically, it's always a good idea to have like an idea in your head of where the where the items are in your ship. So I've named this number 1, number 2, and number 3. And I just kind of follow that same, naming convention. And then it makes it easier for you to find things on the ship when they're damaged. So, let's say you go into the control panel and you find like one of your turrets is damaged. So I know that left 1, 2 and 3, it starts from the front of the ship. So if I have a look here, you can see the 3 turrets on the top. So the number 1 is the one at the front, the number 2 is the one in the middle, and the number 3 is the one at the rear. So let's say number 3 gets damaged. I always know that that turret is the rear left turret. So when it comes time to repair it, I'm not wasting any time trying to figure out which turret it is that I need to repair. So it's always a good idea to name all the things in the ship. And as you can see, I have named quite a bit. So what I haven't done yet is set up the doors, and I still need to name all the things in the CIC, all the command chairs. And also, it's also worth mentioning that your hotbar isn't the same for every single seat that you sit on in the ship. So I'm now going to have to go down into the CIC and set up these hotbars exactly the same for the CIC command seat as well. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do that, and then I think also actually before I do that, one other thing I'd like to point out, if you have access to some transparent LCDs, let's see if we have access to this. I'll show you something cool that you can do. So you can get yourself a transparent LCD and you can place it like, let's say here. That's not orientated correctly. You can place it there. And we can place 2 more there. Let's just enter into our control panel. Let's find our transparent LCD. I believe it will be number 2. Then we can select script, and then we select artificial horizon, and the background will set to 000. This I'm going to set to, and then as you can see, we can see through that, but it still displays something on the screen, and it displays our speed. And also what I can do is on the other ones, so let's go transparent LCD 3, let's set a script, let's set for example, let's go gravity, and then we set the color to 0, this color to 130, this to 000, and then it becomes transparent. And then we can do the same with the one on the left. So we go script, and we can make this one, let's say, fuel consumption. Where is our fuel? Energy and hydrogen. So we'll set that to 0, set this to 130, set this to 0, and set that to 0. And in fact, I might set these to about 180. I think that looks a little bit better. Let's go 180, and let's set this one to 180 as well. And then, you know, you've got your stats displayed on the screen, but you can still see through it. So I think that's a nice little touch. Makes it look a little bit like a fighter jet. So we'll turn our lights off, and then we can get a good view of that. Get rid of my welder. Nice. Very nice. That's one thing I always love to do on all of my ships. And I'm going to do exactly the same thing in the CIC, except I'll just use regular LCDs because I don't actually have any windows to see through. So yeah, there is that. Alright, so I'm going to go off now and I'm going to set up the CIC. Alright guys, well, we're back. So let's go have a look at what I have done in the CIC. So I've gone around the ship and I've made a few other little changes. I do apologize for the choppy nature of this video. And what I mean by choppy is like, you know, me chopping and changing what I'm doing. But as I said before, it's now getting to the point where like I'm just kind of finishing off the design and, you know, crossing T's, dotting I's, that sort of thing. So what I've done is I've changed this back wall as well. I've put in a remote control block, and I've just changed these floor blocks here. And then also what I've done in here is I've put in some LCDs, very similar to the bridge. And then I've gone and I've set up the hotbar here as well. And I'll just go outside and I'll just show you a couple tiny little adjustments that I've made to the ship. So the first one is, if we make our way down these stairs, and then we head up these stairs. So firstly, I've changed the direction of this pipe here, and then I've made like kind of a corner block there, or a couple of corner pieces there. So yeah, there is that. And then I've just changed this door as well from a one of these doors to that door here, as it just looked, you know, a little bit weird. So yeah, I think it looks a little bit better now, but yeah, I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. And then I think the only other thing that I changed was some air vents as well, and I changed this area here. So what I mean by changing the air vents is I removed the air vents from up there and I moved them to here. So now they're attached to these assemblers. And the thing is, like, I know I wanted to leave that port accessible so that we could get into the assembler, but we can still get into it from here. So, and then we can get into it from any other port throughout the ship. So I think that just looks a little bit neater, as those air vents just hanging off the roof there just didn't quite look right to me. So yeah, I changed that as well. And in fact, I might even change the color of this door. Now, one thing I thought that was important to change on the ship was I wanted to change the location of these ports here, because like it was really difficult to actually store a ship, as you guys seen before. So what I've done is I've deleted a row of these blocks and I've moved this whole thing back a little bit, and then I've grouped the thrusters together in groups of 3 to kind of break it up a little bit and give me more thrust. And then also what I've done is I've whacked 2 thrusters in between here, because I found that the thrust on the top was a little bit lacking. And then finally, the last change that I made since last time was I put this spotlight here, just to kind of light up the front of the ship a bit. So I think it looks a little bit interesting with it not being totally symmetrical on either side. And what I'll do is I'll just spawn in my atom miner, and I'll give you guys an idea of how this ship fits together. So let's turn that upside down like that. Let's place it there. So yeah, as you can see, the ship now fits in that space. So I think that gives us a little bit more space to put our ships, and yeah. So now what I want to go ahead and do is I want to create some doors that automatically open when we approach them. Just because going around and closing and opening all these doors is getting to be quite a pain. Now, I have covered this in a previous video, but yeah, I'm going to go through it again. So I'm going to start off with this door on the side of the ship here. So let's just enter into the airlock, close that door, and then we'll bring up our sensor block. So it seems to be number 4 on the hotbar. So I'm going to make it this color, I reckon. And let's just go ahead and place that there. So if we just have a look at the orientation of the sensor to start off with, you can see in the diagram on the right hand side where it has sensor built by Atmosphere 86, you can see that this part is at the top and this part is at the bottom. So right now this is the top of the sensor and this is the bottom of the sensor, and that is its left extent and that is its right extent, if that makes sense. So you're kind of looking at the sensor from that way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into this sensor and I'm going to set up the show on HUD, and then I'm also going to go into the info and I'm going to go show sensors field of range. And then what that will do is it will give us a visual representation of the sensor's range, and you can see it as this kind of opaque box here. And when we enter this box, you can hear the sensor being triggered. So you don't have to listen to that every time, and you can disable that. But yeah, for now I'm just going to leave it there. So I'm going to close this door and I'm going to go into the sensors control panel. And if we just have a look here, we have the left, the right, bottom, top, back and front. So this is going to be our top, this is going to be our bottom, this is going to be our left, and this is going to be our right. And then the front extent will be this way, downwards, and the back extent will be behind the actual sensor. So let's go back into the control panel and let's just set all these up. So the left and the right extent, because this sensor sits in the middle of one block, and remember before I said that each block is 2.5 meters wide, so we're going to set that to half, which is 1.25 and 1.25. And then we're going to set the bottom extent. So the bottom extent, as I said before, is going to be that way. So as you can see, we're in the middle of one block here, so I need to go 1.25 meters to reach the edge of this door. And then to get past this door, I'm going to need another 1.25 meters. And then I also want it to come out from the door a little bit, so I'm probably going to make that another 1.25 meters. So what we're going to do is we're going to set that to about 3 something like that. So we'll set that to about 3.25 meters. And we'll see how we go with that. Yeah. And then the top extent, I'm going to set that to about 1.25. And what that's going to do is it's going to bring it flush with this block here. So now you can see that, yeah, obviously that bit's lit up. And then if we go back into the control panel, I'm going to set the front extent. So the front extent, I'm probably going to set that to about 2.5. And then the back extent, I'm going to set that to 0.1 because that's the minimum. And, you know, it's in a block, so it doesn't really need to be there, if that makes sense. So, you know, like I said, the back of this sensor is not going to sense anything behind this block, so I don't really need to extend it that far. So let's just go outside and have a look at how far out this protrudes. Yeah, so I might increase that a little bit. So let's go ahead and we'll make that about 4 meters, I reckon. So how can we set this to, so the bottom extent, set that to about 4.0. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, it's maybe a little bit too far. Alright, let's dial it back a bit and I'll make it about 3.75. 3.75. Alright, let's see how that looks. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good. So yeah, we need to get within that range and then the door will open for us. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to set this sensor up to open this door. So one thing I recommend that you do is you give all these sensors and doors names, because throughout the ship there's tons and tons of doors and it's going to get very confusing very quickly. So this is the starboard or the right airlock. So I'm going to call this door something like outer starboard or outer right airlock door. So now I'm just going to copy that, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this, and I'm just going to replace the word door with sensor. Awesome. And then we want to go into setup actions, and then we want to have a look for our door. So I've literally just copied and pasted what I had there before. I'm going to right click and we're going to select open, and you can see it's put it there. Now the reason it says closed is because that's the current position of the door. So that doesn't mean that it's going to close when we, you know. So then the second thing we want to do is go closed. Right, so let's exit out, and then if we walk up to this point here, the door opens, and then it closes. Opens, closes. Right. So what we're going to do is we're now just going I'm going to turn the show on HUD off, and now we can't see that little box there anymore. So yeah, that's our airlock, and that's our automatically and opening and closing door. So next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to set up some gravity generators. So as you guys seen before, I actually set up I actually just placed a gravity generator in the ship before. So I'll just show you where that was. So if we just go up here, to squeeze through there. Alright, so you can see this is our gravity generator. And again, I've done a dedicated video on setting these up. So if we just have a look here. Now, as you can see, this thing's upside down. So what I've done is I've actually set this to a negative value. So if we just have a look, -5 meters per second. Now, to mimic Earth gravity, it'd be about 9.81 meters per second squared. Or in this case, negative, because the thing's upside down. So, you know, same sort of deal. You go in here into the control panel, you select show on HUD on, go into info, and then what you can do is you can show gravity range. Now obviously we can't see anything because we're still inside the ship. So let's just make our way downstairs and out the airlock. See if we can't squeeze. Nah, we can't squeeze through there. Oh, let's go, let's go. Whoops, wrong way. So let's exit out of the ship. Oh, those doors are so nice. So as you can see, we have quite a large gravity field. So now, obviously, when we fly our character into this field, and if I just turn my jetpack off, I float down to the ship. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump into this ship, and then we're just going to see what happens when I turn the thrusters of this ship off. And as you can see, the ship remains where it is. So ships are unaffected by that gravity field. I'm not sure about drones and that sort of thing. I'm pretty sure they're unaffected as well. And then also if we build a block here, so let me just make sure my character's not moving. So if we place a block, then that block is now going to, yeah, it's not going to sink down to the ship. So let's just confirm that we can move that block. So is that set to a station? Possibly is. So I guess if I place a control seat there, go in here, info. No, so that is a ship. So yeah, as you can see, that block remains stationary, the ship remains stationary. So the gravity fields, you know, they don't really exert any forces on external blocks or ships. They only really affect characters. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to delete this block. And then basically what we want to do is we want to, you know, kind of set this gravity field. And you can do it from many different locations. What we can do is we can just go like this, just slap a control seat down, jump in there, change our view. And then what we can do is we can go into the control panel, find our gravity generator, and then we can like affect the field width and height and all that sort of jazz. So we can do that. We can set the field width to be like that, and then we can set the field depth to be like that. And obviously you can just change the orientation of the gravity generator to try and, you know, get it just right. So yeah, obviously as you can see, this one isn't really placed in the best position. You can see that it's kind of skewed and it's sitting like kind of to the rear of the ship, so we'd probably need to put one about there, I reckon, in the ship somewhere. So, but you know, the problem is sometimes you don't always have a spot available to put the gravity generator, so you just kind of have to put them where you can fit them, I guess. And in some of my ships I've actually got like 4 or 5, and yeah, so I've got 4 or 5 gravity generators throughout some of my ships, and I try and get the edge of the fields to not collide with each other, because if 2 gravity generators, so let me just do this, right? Let me find another gravity generator and let's place another one there, right? So now if we go into this area, so remember before the gravity was 0.5, So now the gravity is 1. And then if we go into this area where they both intersect, you can see that the gravity is now 1.51. So yeah, and interestingly, it doesn't seem to affect the jetpack on the character either. So yeah, you don't really need to worry too much about them being bigger than the ship. I mean, you can make them massive, but the only real disadvantage to that is that they use, you know, a lot more power. But yeah, you know, it is what it is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go away. I'm going to set up these gravity generators properly. I'm going to set up sensors on all the doors. And then I'm just going to change a few bits and pieces around the ship. And I'm basically just going to finish it off. So this is probably going to be the end of the series. So I'll see you guys in a moment once the ship is finished. And we'll take a quick tour around the outside. And then we'll finish up the series. But I think in the next episode, well, obviously this won't be an episode of continuing to build this ship, but in my next video, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to build a ship printer that can print a ship this big. And yeah, I may do that in survival, or I may do that in creative mode. You know, it just depends on how I'm feeling, I guess. So yeah, I'll show you guys that, and I'll show you a couple of different printers that we can use to make a ship of this size, you know, and yeah, a couple of tips and tricks and all that sort of jazz. So I'll see you guys in a second. Alright guys, so I've gone and set up a couple of gravity generators in the ship, and there was a couple of things I wanted to show you. Okay, so first of all, you can see that I've got 2 gravity generators in the ship. And the second thing is that I've moved this gravity generator here in the center. I've moved that down by 2 blocks. So if we just go into the spectator camera and we work our way through the ship, we can see that the gravity generator now sits under this catwalk plate, whereas previously it used to sit here under this block. So basically the reason why I've done that is because in order to bring the gravity field up to here, it's a lot easier to get the gravity field to extend throughout the entire ship. And if we go through here, you can see that it sits just underneath that floor there. Brilliant. So another thing is that I didn't want the gravity field to extend past the ship too much. And I know before I said that it doesn't really affect other ships, or it doesn't affect other blocks or anything like that. But one thing it does affect is other gravity fields. So if we're like parked up to a base, right, with this door butted up against another gravity field, I didn't want the gravity field to extend past and interfere with like a base's gravity field if we ever build like a asteroid base or something like that. So yeah, I've tried to keep the constraints of this gravity field very close to the outer edges of the ship. And the second thing is, because of the location of this gravity field here, I haven't really been able to extend that all the way to the front of the ship. So I've kind of had to make 2 gravity generators work. And yeah, so the location of this gravity generator is quite interesting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you my character's view. So this actually took me quite a while to get this right. I had to set it up. It's probably taken me at least half an hour to 45 minutes to get this right. So if we just head into the ship, we can see that the gravity generator is here. So a couple of things I tried was, I tried to add the gravity generator here, where like underneath this catwalk plate. But originally what I had done was I had created some blocks hanging off the roof here. But the problem was that it just didn't really look nice. So what I've done is I've just made these catwalk plates extend out further and created this kind of nice effect where, yeah, we have this gravity generator just hanging off the bottom of these. And it gives us a little bit more of an interesting walkway to, you know, walk along and explore. And the reason why I've been able to extend it into these blocks here is if we go into our spectator camera, and in one of the episodes we extended this front portion. So if we just have a look here, we can see that we're still covered by blocks. So what I'm going to do is delete this block here and then kind of bring this to go along like that. And then that should be, yeah, that should work out really well for us. So I'm going to go ahead and do that quickly and like that. Awesome. So now it all looks nice and neat and we have our gravity generator there. So yeah, it's a bit of a compromise as well. Like if I put it here with this block, then yeah, well, one thing that I'm kind of struggling with is because this catwalk plate here occupies this space, I can't really go and put a sensor on this roof to open this door. So the only other place I can really put a sensor for it is there. So, and then the other thing is if I move this gravity generator forward there, let's just enter back into my spectator camera, then this gravity field moves a full 2 blocks that way and it ends up ending right here. So half of the observation deck won't have gravity. I'm not really too concerned about the outside, to be honest, because you know it's just a luxury having gravity there. But yeah, I definitely wanted this entire area to have gravity. And it doesn't really matter that there's no gravity where these windows are, because I mean it's not like we're going to be Spider-Man and crawling all over them, you know what I mean? And even if you were, it'd probably be better if you had no gravity doing that. So I've had to put a sensor there, and I know what you're thinking. Where am I going to put the sensor for this door? Well, that's pretty simple. I'm going to have to put the sensor for that door there. But where am I going to put the sensor for this door? Well, again, yeah, that's something I need to fix too. And just put the sensors for these doors underneath the doors themselves. So yeah, that's pretty cool. So that should allow us to put sensors on all these doors without much hassle, still have a decent gravity field, and yeah. So as you can see, that's the reason why it's taken me forever to figure it out. Now all I need to do is figure out a place to put some lights, and what I can do is just chuck them under these catwalk plates here, and I think that should be pretty good. I'll give them a radius of about 10 meters, and yeah, we should have it all lit up. Alright guys, I'll see you in a sec once I finish some more of the ship. Okay guys, so we're back. So now what I thought I would show you is all the sensors that I've laid out. So I've probably spent a good 2 or 3 hours putting sensors on every single door, renaming all the doors, and yeah, all that sort of jazz. Anyway, it gets quite boring, but also you can see that I've kind of changed this area a bit. So what I really wasn't happy with was the fact that, now remember I said that I was going to put some sensors underneath the doors. Well, the only problem with doing that is that you could actually see the rear end of the sensor coming through the door, and it just looked hideous, to be honest with you. And the second thing was that this area seemed to be like kind of suspended in midair, and it just looked very, very weird. So what I've done is I've extended out this piece here. I've put some half-built catwalks down here to try and give it the illusion that it's being held up by this. And then yeah, so and then I've basically just redesigned this a little bit and put the sensors here for this. So what I'm going to do though is I'm going to go over a couple of the different sensors, some interesting ones that I've had to set up throughout this ship. So the first being this, the airlock. So let me just go into this and go show on HUD. Now you can see that this sensor here is, obviously it comes out to here. But what I've done with the airlocks is I've left this really large gap here. And basically what that's for is so that I don't accidentally depressurize the entire compartment when I'm exiting the ship. So yeah, there's that. Second thing, let me just move down to the sensors under here. Now, obviously this sensor here, I couldn't put one up the top. So what I've done is I've put one to the side. And if we go into the sensors control panel, we can see that the left extent has been set to 5 meters and the right extent has been set to 0.1. Because remember I said this is the right and this is the left. So basically think of yourself as you're looking out of the sensor. So that's your right and that's your left. So there is that one, and then secondly there is these sensors here. Now because I couldn't put the sensors on the bottom of the doors, I actually had to put them on the side of these interior walls. So you can see I've chucked them here, and if we go into the settings, it's the same kind of principle as the one before. So you know, we've got a left extent of 1.2, which is that way. That way. We've got a right extent of 2.5, which is that way. Bottom extent that way, 0.1. Top extent 3.6 goes upwards. Back extent is behind us, behind the sensor itself, so that's set to 2.5, and that rear extent is that way. So yeah, you can see that, and enter up the stairs, and that all works rather nicely. And then I think what I'll do is I'll just go through a couple of other little changes that I've made throughout the ship. So obviously you've seen the change that I made at the front. And then if we go through here and we work our way up these stairs, if we can eventually get up there. And basically I wasn't really happy with the way that this was looking, so I've set this up. And what I've gone and done is I've added in another row of blocks there, and for these CIC doors I've put the sensors there, and I've put another sensor there. So if we just cruise on up through here, and then you can see the door opens really nicely for us, and we don't even have to open anything. Yeah, I really love my sensor doors. And then obviously we have our bridge. And then once again we have the bridge airlock. And as you can see here, there is this really large gap between us, you know, entering and exiting. So that should hopefully alleviate the fact that, you know, we don't have a ton of air escaping all the time. And then finally, the only other minor change I've made is here. So I've made some changes here, and obviously you can see that I went too fast through that door, and we couldn't really keep the air into the ship. So yeah, I've tried to dress up this corner as much as I can. I'm not sure if there's really going to be too much that I can do about that and make that meet that. So yeah, I might just leave it like that. It doesn't look terribly good, but it doesn't look terribly bad either. So yeah, there is that. And then also I've just added on these blocks here, and I've changed the color of these stairs. So yeah, that's about it so far. So yeah, I'll see you guys in a second. So another thing that I've gone ahead and done is I've just added some lights to the bottom of the ship as well. So let's just go and take a look at that. Obviously this is an area that gets overlooked quite a lot, especially by me. So what I've done is I've set these to a radius of 15 meters, and I've set the offset to 5, and then obviously, you know, my normal intensity and all that sort of settings. So I'll just give you a demo on what that does when we try and land the ship on a very dark asteroid. Honestly, I run with a mod called Space Just Got Real, and there are a few mods out there that basically change the lighting aspect and make things a lot darker. So with this mod, it's definitely very useful to have these, but in the vanilla game, in space, you don't really need lights on the bottom of your ship because they don't really do too much. So yeah, as you can see, it kind of lights up the bottom of the asteroid, and we can see what we're doing a lot more. Let me just get rid of the interface here. And yeah, you can see that it really helps light up the bottom of the ship and what we're landing on. Obviously this asteroid is a bit of a rough surface, but if we were landing on flat ground on a planet, it'd be much better. And this is also really handy for when you're trying to land in really bad weather as well. Yeah, and then I've also just changed like the grouping of the thrusters as well, because they got messed up when I added and removed a couple of thrusters here and there. Yeah, so the ship is looking pretty good. Alright guys, so as you can see, I've moved the ship down to the planet, and yeah, there was just a few little changes that I made. So first of all, I've changed up the back end of the ship because it was looking pretty hideous the way it was before. So I'll just quickly show you what the ship looked like before. So we'll bring up the Pioneer number 4, and then if we just paste the ship back here, so just paste the ship there. Let me just get this as close to the ground as I can. So let's just place it there. And yeah, as you can see, this is what the back end used to look like before, and this is what it looks like now. So yeah, I've just kind of given it a little bit more interesting detail. I've used some of these extra blocks that they've added to the game. I've changed like kind of the angles here to these 2x1 slopes rather than the just the regular 45-degree angle blocks. I've changed the color of these. Yeah, so, and then also, as you can see, so let's just get rid of this one. And so yeah, as you can see, I've basically just gotten rid of, you know, or made the back end look really nice. And then the second thing I've done is I've added turrets all along the bottom. I've gone ahead and I've named all of them. I've added some more interior turrets to the top, and then I've just basically put a name badge on the ship as well. In the dark, you can't really see this this logo. I mean, well, at least not in the vanilla game anyway. I mean, you can in vanilla, but not with my mod enabled. So yeah, there is that as well. So I tried to mess around with a bit of lighting to try and alleviate that so you could see that in the dark, but yeah, it was really hard to get it to work. So yeah, I kind of just left it for now. So, and then as you can see, I've got a turret here, and then I've gone ahead and I've placed a couple of turrets on the interior of the ship as well. So we've placed one here in the airlock, so you know, if anyone tries to sneak inside, they get shot up. And then also what I've done is I've added in some more, some of these button panels here, so you can see, like I've basically put Pioneer assemblers, Pioneer refineries, Pioneer reactor, Pioneer jump drives, the recharge, and I put another console here with, you know, I only really had one with the gravity to go, so kind of just like, yeah, put a 4-button panel there, even though these buttons aren't being used. So in these buttons here, I've basically just put, you know, the hydrogen energy, and just 2 graphs just to make it look, you know, a little bit nicer. And then the other thing that I've done is I've gone ahead and I've put in these buttons here for the O2H2 generators. So if we turn that on, we can see that they are now turned on. We'll go ahead and we'll turn them back off. So I guess really the only room that I haven't actually done anything with is the observation deck. So I think I might just leave this blank, and I'll let you guys just create whatever you want in here. And yeah, so yeah, hopefully guys, you know, you can come up with some interesting designs, and yeah, by all means show me the designs you come up with, send me a link, you know, create a workshop item or something like that. Yeah, let me know what you guys think, and let me know what you guys create. And then obviously also, you know, we've put these turrets on the bottom, and I think I mentioned that before. Yeah, so I've put some interior turrets all around the ship, and yeah, it kind of dresses it up a bit. So yeah, thanks very much for watching, guys. It has been an absolute pleasure building this ship with you guys, and so in a later video, what I want to do is I want to actually show you how to print a ship like this in survival mode. So I'm going to set up a printer, and we're actually going to print this thing out, and it's going to require quite a bit of resources, but yeah, I mean, it should be quite easy to do it. I've done it before with the Atlas, so yeah, this should be no worries. So yeah, I hope to see you in that video, and thank you very much for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.